Hello everybody and welcome to the show about Lone Star. Yeah, George here in the guise of Corgi Jr.'s Land Rover recovery truck. I hope you're well. So yeah, welcome back to another Diecast discussions. I think that's what I'm going to call these videos really. So like I did with the video about Lido, I'd like to bring to your attention another diecast manufacturer from back in the day that is one of my absolute favourites that you may not have heard of, and that is Lone Star. DCMT, Diecast Machine Tools Limited, started the brand Lone Star as far back as 1939 in an effort to create diecast toys for children. And I believe the name Lone Star actually came about during the Wild West film era, when children saw cowboys having duels with guns and thought, oh, I want a toy gun. So they basically started producing toy guns and it evolved from there, according to Wikipedia anyway, and I'll put a link in the description to the article if you want to read it. I believe Lone Star was also co-founded by Harry Eagles, who was one of the sons of the founder of Crescent Toys, who also made diecast toy soldiers and cars. Like I say, they made toy guns, some of which tied into some of the early James Bond films and the Man from U.N.C.L.E. series. They also made lots of toy soldiers and toy military vehicles, and also in later years a lot of toy cars. I'm having to lie down on the floor because this is where my Lone Star cabinet is, and I've got a guest joining me. So what you do, little bug, eh? This is my Lone Star collection, and considering it's only on one shelf, there's actually quite a lot of stuff packed in it, as you can probably see. It is beginning to overflow a bit, so I'm having to cram a little bit more stuff in. But anyway, it's one of my absolute favourite collections out of all my diecast, mainly because they're not rare as a whole. I mean, there are some ones that are rarer than others, obviously, but you don't find them as much as, say, for example, classic Matchbox or Dinky Toys or Corgi, and that's one of the reasons why I love them. And as you'll see, there is so much variety in the models that they are making, and for how long they've been making them as well. Whilst we're down here, do you want to see what my very first Lone Star toy was? Hands up. Yeah, it's a little pea shooter or a spud gun. It's called a Crime Fighter, and it's all diecast metal. And do you know what's even more weird about this? When I was about 3 or 4, my mum was walking the dog around a local reservoir and she found it. I mean, you know, it works like a proper gun. You know, because you got the trigger at the back, and then you pull this in, and but yeah, that's my very first Lone Star toy. Not long ago, I was actually in my mate's vintage toy shop in Warwick, and he got another similar item. So I'm guessing this is based off James Bond's Wolfer PPK. It's got a plastic handle, and literally the only thing that works is the trigger. And it says automatic on the side, Lone Star there at the bottom. So like I say, they did make a whole manner of things. If you mention the name Lone Star to any die-hard diecast collector, then the first thing that they're going to think of is Impy. And these are all my Lone Star original line Impy cars, and there were several different iterations of Impy. You got your original ones, like the ones at the back, and I'll come on to those in a minute, and then you had Roadmasters, which was sort of Impy as well, Supercars and Flyers, and they all sort of came about to cash in on the Hot Wheels and Matchbox craze of the fast-moving, freewheeling model cars. This was my very first Lone Star Impy car. This is a Ford Taurus. It's the same size just about as a Matchbox car, but it's got 10 times the detail. It's got little gems in the headlights, the bonnet opens, the side doors open as well, the boot opens, it has a tow hook, and something that is a big plus point for me on any toy car of any size it has steering. However, so this is one from the Flyers range. This is a Mercedes, and the Flyers didn't generally have steering, but they had all the rest of the features like that. Oh god, this one. This one, I was at my mate's vintage toy shop back in 2019, I think it was, and I was sifting through a box of loose diecast, and I picked this up and saw it was Lone Star, and I said to him, "Chris, has this been repainted?" And he said, "Yeah, really badly." And then he said, "You know how rare these things are?" And so he said, "It's a Vauxhall Forenza." And he went on eBay and he said, "Look at this." He said, "There's one here on eBay in worse condition than this one that's going for 80 quid. And yeah, I've never ever seen another one of these. So that's why I've kept it, even though it's in such bad condition. Here you've got two Jaguar Mark 10s. So this one is the older Lone Star Roadmasters one because it has the steering, has the diamond headlights, but it also has the opening bonnet, doors and boot and everything. Whereas this one, because it's the Flyers one, it doesn't have the steering, but it has all the other features. Interestingly enough, that Mark 10 Jaguar was brought back in the late 70s in the Impy Major range, which I will come on to a bit later, but it has zero features other than a tow hook. It's basically the same as the Matchbox Turbo team, where they brought back old molds, but they just put zero features on them. So they didn't have opening doors or bonnets or whatever. They didn't even have see-through glass, they just had black plastic. They even made a couple of trucks to go along with the Roadmasters range. I mentioned Impy Major earlier. There you've got the old Lone Star logo in the top left corner, and there is the little, I guess the Impy mascot really, and sort of like some sort of little devil or a little fawn or something. But yeah, these are all my Impy Major toys. As you can see, we've got the Mark 10 Jaguar that we saw earlier. You do find them, they're not too difficult to find boxed. Don't get me wrong, I do love Impy Major, but they weren't definitely not Lone Star's finest hour. If I pick up, say for example, this cement mixer here, so they were all really quite cheaply made, but still quite hefty toys, probably made for brumming around in the sandpit really. And apart from the cars, all the trucks, because it was mainly trucks Impy Major, they were based around the same sort of cab designs. So there you got a cement mixer, but here you can also see that you've got a little flatbed lorry, and that just shows you how cheap these were made, because that comes off very easily. You had that cab design. Similarly, there was this cab design. So there you've got that one. That's a bit more of an unusual futuristic design. This was actually my very first Impy Major toy. And here's a closer look at the box. Obviously got the little imp at the top, and it says Supermodels, and on the side this is number 57, water tank truck, and then on the back you've got a list of all of them on there. And I think these were 1976. I mentioned obviously we got the Jaguar Mark 10 there. They did some cars. Here you've got a Mitsubishi 2000 GT, and then underneath you've got a Range Rover police car. And the way that they did sort of same bodies but with different backs kind of reminds me of Lido, when they sort of repackaged the same models but with different brands and that. I can't be asked to take all of these off the stand, so they're just staying on there because they're so small. But these are all my Lone Star Tough Tots. So these were late 60s, early 70s, early to mid 70s anyway. And they're just tiny little, really cheaply made, but very nicely made at the same time, little die-cast toy cars. I say toy cars, most of them are actually trucks. This one is my very first Lone Star Tough Tot, some sort of fuel or petrol tanker. All the trucks pretty much are based off what I can only presume is some sort of Chevrolet, even though Lone Star are a British company. I'm guessing, or is that supposed to be a Ford Transit or a Bedford or something? I'm really not sure. Here you've got a little Jeep, and it comes with a little trailer. You got a little Corvette Stingray over there, a Cadillac or Ford Thunderbird or something, a Citroen DS Cabriolet, an ERF fire engine, I think that's a Mercedes 280 SL, and then at the back a little low loader truck with a little digger on the back. But that's not the end of Tough Tots, because I believe at some point in the very late 80s, early 90s, they made a comeback. This is actually my most recent Lone Star purchase. This is obviously a recasting of the Jeep that I showed you earlier, except the thing with Moes was that they came in lots of weird and wonderful colours. There was a whole range of them. They were branded as Part 5, Moes, The Awakening. So from the outside of this box, you have no idea what is in here. It just says, collect me, and then somewhere on the bottom it says play games. I've got about 3 or 4 of them boxed. So this is the circus truck. These all had names. So I believe this circus truck was called Miska. In each box you basically got a collect them all list, Moes to collect. So the cement mixer was called Rocky, Tank was the tanker, Rug was the dust cart, Builder was the builder's truck, Miska was the thing, Scoop was the digger, Skip was the skip lorry, Breaker was the dumper truck, Crystal was the box van, Gus is the Corvette, Flame is the fire engine, Jazz, that's the Jeep, Shake is the milk truck, Gems is the Citroen, Suds or Sudez is the flatbed, I really don't get that name, Tow with an E on the end is the tow truck, Finn is the Mercedes, and Tug is the flatbed lorry. And then it tells you about game rules that you can play, because they had trading cards here for Gus, Breaker and Tow. And not only did you get that as well, you also got in each a little comic. Basically these are tiny little comics, and it says to read and colour. How are you going to colour these in, because they are tiny? I mean, apparently this whole story, this is all set in space. They basically anthropomorphized the toy cars, which, you know, it's an interesting idea. It's amazing how these things have kind of been forgotten by time. Here is Flame from the Moes collection, and here is the original Tough Tots ERF fire engine. Here's one that I haven't actually managed to find the original version of yet. This is Breaker, the dumper truck, Finn, the Mercedes, and obviously these aren't the only colour variants that you could get of the Moes, because there were even, I mean, I believe these were the only colours that you could get this Mercedes in back in the Tough Tots era, but there are so many different variants of these Moes in different colours. It's unbelievable, really. That's kind of an iceberg, and a very interesting one as well. At the other end of the scale from Tough Tots, you have these big boys. This one, I believe, is from the Top Boys range. So these are basically a range of retro futuristic, or futuristic at the time, truck designs, and they had loads of different ones. I've never ever seen them off of eBay, so I bought this off eBay back in 2013. This is a milk truck. It has a little pipe that comes down, and yes, you can even fill the water up from there or from underneath. The lights on the top can twist, almost looks like some sort of frog face, doesn't it? And then the cab tilts forward. This one's one of my more recent Lone Star purchases. This is a Lone Star Kings, which is basically the same as Top Boys. I mean, they've got the same wheels. I guess it's a bit older because it's an older design. And this is a little gritter truck. So the grit would go in there, and then you pull this lever out at the back, and or the salt or sand or whatever it is goes out through the bottom. For those amongst you who are keen model railway enthusiasts, you may be interested to know that Lone Star were effectively pioneers in N-gauge model railways. So yeah, this is my Lone Star Locos collection. I think they did eventually make some motorised stuff, but at this point it's literally just push along stuff, and it's all British locomotives. I mean, there you've got a Prairie tank. You've got a little 060 tank engine there. The only anomaly here is, for some reason, done an American diesel. I'm not sure why, and I don't know if they actually did any rolling stocks to go with it. You've got a Grizzly A4 Pacific. I think that's, oh, what is that? I can't remember what they are. It's not a 9F. I know it's not. And then you got a little 08 shunter. They did them in various different colours. And as time progressed, the models got slightly more detailed, and they added the proper couplings as they became motorised, the models. The little crane lifts up and down and it swivels side to side. But they didn't only dabble in N-gauge models themselves, they even did a little bit of scenery. I've seen pictures of model buildings that could go with this, but I also have an N-gauge Citroen DS. Yeah, so this is in scale with these models, just to give you a bit of an idea of what these are like. Again, I've seen these on eBay, but because they're so rare, they just go for so much money. I showed you the Lone Star guns that I have earlier, but another thing that Lone Star are quite synonymous for, aside from Impy and Locos, is their military range. And these are the 3 army vehicles that I've got. I'm not sure what sort of armoured car that is. That's a Bren gun carrier tank, and this is a Saladin armoured car. And the final category that I'm going to discuss with Lone Star is just random items that they did that I have in my collection. Here's 2 Bristol Routemaster double-decker buses. Pretty much a bog standard one, really. It says See London by Bus. For some reason it has white wall tyres. And here is a recolour of it, which I bought recently. In its box, unusually, Royal Wedding Souvenir, because this is to commemorate the 1981 royal wedding of then Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer. And yeah, it's sort of chrome plated, I imagine. And it says Lone Star on the side. It's got London skyline at the top. Kind of reminds me of the old Thames TV ident. Another oddity that's Lone Star made, and I've never seen any more of this type of model made by Lone Star. It's the de Havilland Comet, the very first jet airliner ever made. And yeah, it's got no paint on it, but actually underneath, a little bit of information about the plane under the right wing and on the left wing as well. Apart from that, and not a lot else as to what range this is from. By far the quirkiest and probably the sweetest item in my Lone Star collection is this lawnmower. Look at that. Isn't that just a darling little thing? And the front bucket detaches like it would on the real one of these, so you can empty the chippings. The front roller and the back roller works, and the little chopper in the middle works. Roll the back roller, there is a little, there it is. There's like a little bit of metal down there, and it reacts on a cog on that side. So when it goes round, I love that. That's so quirky, yet so innovative. You do not get toys like that anymore. Well, I hope you enjoyed yet another dive into another little-known die-cast manufacturer. And yeah, so if you did enjoy this and you like my channel and my other videos, then please do subscribe if you haven't already, and comment if you fancy, and leave a little like. And I will see you in one of my other guises in the next video, whenever that is. Cheers guys, take care.
It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. If you understand this, then you're mad. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. And the singing is also quite bad.